Hello, my name is Dan Pontefract. I'm the author of this book, Lead, Care, Win, How to Become a Leader Who Matters. And today I'm going to be speaking about the keys to leading self and leading others. The book itself centers on 9 key leadership lessons that you see in this graphic behind me. We're going to cover all 9 today in sort of a rapid format and then give you a summary guide on what to take in terms of next steps. So to begin with, I want to start with lesson number 1, be relatable, and a wonderful story about this woman, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. Now, the story is somewhat tragic because it starts in Christchurch, where a terrorist came into 2 mosques and maimed and killed several people. Now, the story about being relatable with Miss Ardern is that the first thing she did, she said, I will never utter the name of that terrorist because I'm sure those people who have lost family members or have been injured never want to hear that gentleman's name. Then she went and stayed with those people. She wore a headscarf. She prayed with them. She sat with them. She just listened. Ultimately, she was empathetic, using her head to figure out how they could think about the situation, her heart, how they were feeling about the situation, and she did something about it with her hands. That's what being relatable is. It is not only putting yourself in the shoes of someone, it's not only just caring, it's doing something about it. And of course, at times as leaders, we're going to make mistakes, so we need to take action with those mistakes. So the lessons here about the first point of lead, care, win, be relatable is that when you're a leader, you're going to make mistakes, so admit to them and say sorry. That is the quintessential aspect of being relatable. But like with Miss Ardern, she said, how can I help you? Ask for help. Ask for help when you don't know. Ask for people if they need your help. And again, like Miss Ardern, connect with others. People want you to be human. People want you to relate to them as a leader. So be there for them. And it's okay to give a hug every now and then as well, don't you think? All right. Lesson number 2 of Lead, Care, Win is this: play for meaning. Now I'm going to show you a picture of a rugby team in Japan. That rugby team is Canada's national rugby team. Now, during the Rugby World Cup a couple years ago, the Canadian men's national rugby team lost their first 2 matches, like blown out basically, and they were getting ready for their 3rd match. And then all of a sudden, a major typhoon came into their city in which they were supposed to play the match and in the hotel where they were staying and obliterated everything. Now, instead of wallowing in the hotel and crying and drinking beer and whiskey, the Canadians got up out of their hotel and they said, let's help out this city. Let's clean up. And that's the essence of playing for meaning. When you play for meaning, it's not about you. It's about thinking about others. And so the questions I want you to think about if you are indeed going to play for meaning, lesson number 2, is why am I here? As a person, as a leader, as a friend, as a colleague? And follow that up with, who am I serving? Am I only serving myself? Or am I here to serve others? Am I here to serve the planet, the community, the environment? Yes, we all want to make some money, and yes, we do need profits if we're running an organization and a business. But that's not the only reason to be in business, is it? And then lastly, how do you want to be known when you leave a room? As an arrogant jerk? Or someone who was benevolent, empathic, there for the other person? I hope it's all of that. Lesson number 3 starts with this photo. I took it, and the lesson's called Stay Present. Now, at a soccer match with one of my children, what I noticed was a woman who had set up shop, if you will, in a one-person tent, because it was raining, and I'm based in a rainforest, more or less. So she sets up the tent, she puts a chair there, and she zips it all up. But for the entire match, as this arrow suggests, she stood there, I guess sat there, and stared at her phone, not to the 12-year-olds playing the soccer match. And I felt bad for the child that obviously was on the other team, but this was an epitome of what I see in our organizations. We get very distracted. We are always glued to a back-to-back-to-back-to-back meeting culture. We try to do more with less, and it's inhibiting our ability to be a lead, care, win type of leader. It's almost like it's a lead, scare, win tactic when we're not present. So some things I want you to think about first and foremost is, can you do a time audit with your own calendar? How much time are you spending in meetings? How much time are you spending on doing? What's your load balance like? Do you have a huge workload? And then I want you to thinking about setting up on your calendar some me time, some focus blocks where it's just for you to think, maybe get some work done, but not in meetings and not being too busy. And then the last thing I want you to do is think about norms, both personal norms for yourself. What are you doing in terms of when you respond to emails and texts and DMs? What are your norms? But also, what are your team norms? As a leader, you need to set up the norms for the team so that you know how and when you're going to communicate or meet, etc. If you don't do this, no one knows what's happening. All right, lesson number 4 is remain curious, and I pay homage to Alice Coachman here. Now, Alice Coachman became the first black woman to win a gold medal at any Summer Olympics. It just so happened to be in 1948 in London. When she was a child, she found quite a prowess in terms of her athletic ability, and she gravitated to the high jump. But because of segregation, she couldn't sort of train with the white people, so she had to make do and kind of create her own high jumps with sticks and milk crates and bricks and all kinds of things. Until eventually someone caught on in university and welcomed her to the university. So she was curious, trying to push herself even though she wasn't allowed to train. And it's a wonderful embodiment and a wonderful story. And here's her final gold-winning jump, and her on the right that suggests that, again, indeed, she did win the gold medal for her country, the United States. So what can you do to remain curious ultimately? Well, I want you to lead off your week, your day, your month with something you need to learn. Be curious, so lead off with learning. Secondly, I want you to engage your network, engage other people to be curious. Don't just leave it up to yourself. Ask people for their intelligence. I want you to adapt to the times. So you can't just rely on yesterday's prowess and yesterday's techniques in order to move forward for tomorrow. So you must adapt. Fourthly, you must reinforce your learning. You can't just go and take a course or learn something and not build it into your daily, weekly habits. So reinforce those new behaviors. And lastly, the best way to learn is to teach someone else. So nurture someone else. Teach them, coach them, mentor them. As it just happens, these 5 tips, if you look at the first letter, they all spell the word learn. So to remain curious is to be a lifelong learner. I hope you can do that. Number 5 is to embrace change. So a little bit of levity, first of all, and that is mistakes and things, etc., are going to go wrong as we change. So we must embrace change, but we must embrace mistakes, like congratulations, you done it. Not the best English in the world. Or in this particular example, I'm not sure where the bicycle on the right is heading. I know that I might get a concussion if I hit the pole. And then thirdly, in this particular case, I don't know what satapa means, but I'm assuming it means stop. So these are elements of change, right? But we need to know that there needs to be some levity as we as leaders embrace change. Otherwise, we're going to freak our people out. So number 1, mistakes will be made. Get over it. Number 2, people will freak out during the change. So what can you do as a leader? Well, first one is keep it light. In the moment of change, whether it's a mistake or just going through the change, you're the leader, keep it light, keep it fresh, just be human. And when you're being human, you can share your own change mistakes so people understand that you're not perfect. It's a perfect way to be a caring type of leader. And then use some humor. The milk will be spilt, that I assure you of. So use a little bit of humor in order to go through the change as we embrace it. Lesson number 6 is dare to share. Now, one time I was walking through a call center and I saw everyone on, their headsets, and they had 2 screens, one sort of looking at the customer environment and one with the customer details, right? And the other thing I noticed was that many of them also had their mobile phones out, what looked like they were kind of surfing the web or texting, I wasn't sure. So after about 30 minutes of observing everybody doing this, I finally sort of stopped someone. I said, hey, Why is everyone on their phones while you're kind of answering customer calls? And I'll never forget it because this woman looked at me and she said, you know what? Management. They won't let us use instant messaging. They think that it's too distracting. So we just did a life hack and a work hack, and we text each other when we don't know the answer to something. So there's an example of where colleagues, the call center agents, wanted to share information in order to do better for the customer, yet the leaders saw them potentially using instant messaging as a distraction. It's wrong. To dare to share is not only to create a daring culture of sharing, it's to dare leadership to make sure that everyone has the materials and the access points in which to be able to share. So there's 3 types of sharing that I want you to think about. First of all is up. What is it that you have on your desktop, in your head, wherever, that you can share with others above you in your own department, your business unit, etc. But then you've got people below you, no doubt, that are going to need some of your information, your knowledge, your intellect as well. And then not only is it up and down, it's something I call around. There are people outside of your team in other parts of the organization that also will need your information. So find strategies in which to just start sharing what you know. And maybe you can build a culture within your team or your organization where everyone begins sharing that type of information. Because I assure you it's vital, and it shows again that you care about the other person. Lesson number 7 is command clarity. Now, you can be the goldfish who's pretending to be a shark, or you can be Greta Thunberg. Right from the beginning, Greta Thunberg was very clear on what she was trying to do. She was very decisive, and then she basically created an army. But she did an army in a benevolent way. What I'm getting at is she was very clear and she commanded what it was that she wants done. She wants to fix the wrecking planet that we have these days. So some things to kind of follow in Greta's footsteps is be transparent as a leader about what it is that you're trying to achieve. That's called clarity. Be decisive. Don't sit on the fence. Right? Don't take forever to make a decision. But remember, you can come back and maybe change it because, situation did change. But be decisive. Don't sit on that fence ultimately. What you also need to be doing as a command clarity leader is looking at the team's load and managing it. Because if you don't care about their workload, then ultimately things aren't going to get done, or it's going to be a lot of stress. And that's very unclear as a team. So those are just a couple tips in terms of being a command clarity type of leader. Lesson number 8 is to commit to balance. And quite simply, we need to take a look at the composition of our teams, how well we are doing as a leader in terms of diversity and inclusivity and equity. We need to look at pay. We need to look at the things in which that we are creating in terms of resource groups to allow people to feel that they are part of a fair team, that decisions are fair, that the way in which we treat people are fair. And that is committing to balance. So just a couple tips ultimately as a lead care win leader. Look at your team composition, whether you're the CEO or a manager of a team, right? Diversify it, whether it's from different races, different sexes, different intellects, whatever the case may be, different backgrounds. The more you diversify your team, the greater differences of opinion you'll have, which actually helps you in the long run in terms of team goals, ideation, getting things done, etc. Include people. This is different than diversity. When we include people, we are welcoming different thoughts. We are creating avenues for people to voice their opinion, their differences. Diversity is composition. Inclusivity is an open channel. And then thirdly, I encourage you to recognize your people. When you commit to balance, you're recognizing people both formally for 5 or 10 years at a company, but informally and socially, saying thank you, recognizing the little things, because that's going to go a long way into your commitment to balancing the morale and the repertoire of engagement inside that team. Okay, you ready? The 9th lesson is be champion others. And the story takes us back to 2019 in Toronto, Canada, when Bianca Andreescu beat Serena Williams, perhaps the world's finest and greatest tennis player ever. Now, what happened after the break in the first set, Bianca Andreescu was up 3-1, and Serena looked at the umpire and said, I have to forfeit, I have to abandon the match. And Bianca didn't get up and know that she had just won the championship of the Canadian Open to the middle of the court and start celebrating. She went directly over to Serena. She knelt down. She says, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? What can I do? How can I help you?" And then when she ultimately did receive the championship trophy and the prize, the first thing she did was relate and champion Serena's history, her career, how she looked up to her. That's what I'm getting at as a leader. We need to look in the face of adversity and raise people up. That is how we champion others. We're not in it just for ourselves. We champion others as a caring leader to move forward. Now, metaphorically, because I live on Vancouver Island in Canada, I look at humpback whales every now and then as a source of inspiration. Now, humpback whales are not like orca whales. They don't travel in a family. They're independent creatures. But what they do is they come together about 50% of the time, and they do what's called bubble net fishing. And basically, they blow out of their spout holes, and they confuse fish, and they create this circle, as you can see here in the video, and they then take turns eating the fish, the what have you. Here's the thing. This is not an innate skill. It's actually learned. Humpbacks teach other humpbacks. They champion others. They make sure that each other can know, and they learn how to fish together, which is the epitome of a lead, care, win leader. So, if anything, why don't you try to be a humpback whale? All right, so in summary, we've got 9 lessons here. Number 1, be relatable. Number 2, play for meaning. Number 3, stay present. Number 4, remain curious. Number 5, embrace change. Number 6, dare to share. Number 7, command clarity. Number 8, commit to balance. And number 9, champion others. When you put it all together, you will, I assure you, become a lead, care, win leader. If this wasn't enough, there's an entire 15+ hour online learning program that details way more than this in terms of each of the 9 lessons with job aids, videos, audio files, podcasts, poems, and other activities to help you become a lead, care, win leader. Just visit www.leadcarewin.com. And with that, again, I am Dan Pontefract. I hope you sign up for my newsletter. Check out the website. Check out the other books. It's been a delight chatting with you today. Take good care.